Okay. Thank you very much. I'm giving the talk on behalf of Bogdan, who is hiding on the back. So the first question we need to answer in this context is actually why should we care about the diversification of image search results? The reason might be, for example, the statistics of Flickr. We can see the upload of images per month for the last couple of years. And for the last month, August 2016, we have over 50 million of images uploaded. So what's the problem? The problem is that information needs are different for different users, but it's also kind of difficult to find what you're actually looking for. If we take an example, it's a search for Henning Bridge. We get about 6,000 of images, we see on the right side. But having a look at the results, we can see that a lot of them are not even relevant to the query. Looking at the remaining images, you kind of get the feeling that you always look at the same one, because they're so much similar. This is a development which Google actually addresses in his development. It's the very same search in Google Images, and what we can see on the top is the try of Google to provide grouping of similar images so you can easily access what you're looking for. This is pretty much the direction we would like to go to. So the goal of the task is we have an initial set of images which is provided by Flickr for a particular query, and the participants are required to provide a ranked list of up to 50 images which are both relevant and also diverse representations of the query. Diverse means that we would like to cover different visual aspects so we can have a broader range of results. The core challenge in this is actually that we have a very general purpose searches that are usually covered by multi-topics. We see some examples. We have, for example, accordion player, so we need an accordion and a player, or drinking water, which is really difficult or has quite a low performance on Flickr. What are the datasets? The datasets, of course, we provide for development and test data images, which are pretty much equally distributed. We have approximately the same number of queries, we have approximately the same number of images. We also have some metadata information, which is the initial Flickr ranking. We have the text-based description provided by the user in terms of title, text, description. We have the number of views an image is seen, and also some basic information. To support the participation from different communities, we provided the pre-computed descriptors, visual one, of course, deep learning. We have text-based descriptors. We have user notation credibility, which simply describes or estimates the quality of relationship between tag and image content. And we have a wiki set, which is simple semantic vectors for general English terms. There are some statistics. I don't really want to go too much into detail except for the very last line. We see that the number of images per desired cluster is actually highly varying, from 1 to 180. Which shows that the clustering is quite imbalanced, which limits the number of approaches you can apply for diversification. How we did the evaluation? We had 3 required runs using only provided visual and text information and also the combination thereof. And we have 2 runs where everything was allowed, including using external information or human-based approaches, whatever. The official metrics were precision and cluster recall and actually the harmonic mean in terms of F1 measure, at different cutoff of number of images. The precision pretty much corresponds to the relevance of the provided images. The cluster recall is actually the diversification, and F1 measures simple harmonic mean. We provided the metrics for different cutoff values, but the official ranking is based on the F1 measure at the top 20 images. Some baseline results for Flickr, we can simply see that the top line is the cluster recall, which is pretty low, also equally distributed across the development and test data. There is some difference with the precision, which is quite lower for the test data, but still comparably low. Okay, the most important information for 2016. We have altogether 14 teams originally registered for the task. 6 teams completed the task, and 5 will be presenting at the workshop. We got altogether 29 runs, which means the required runs covering different modalities. And also almost all teams submitted the general runs, and we can see that we have a really broad number of covered modalities. We have the single modalities such as visual information, but also multimodal approaches, also such including credibility descriptors and even one human-based approach. The official ranking for 2016, as I said, is based on the F1 measure. Out of the 6 teams, 5 teams actually outperformed the Flickr baseline, which is a good result. What we also see is that the top 1 team is really significantly better than the other 4 teams. And the top approach is actually only using the provided visual and text information, which is interesting. We're looking forward to the presentation tomorrow. Just to show the difference, we have in between the Flickr result, what we see is that not that much approaches actually managed to perform the relevance of the Flickr result, but most of the approaches improve the cluster recall or the diversity of the provided achieved results. What we see up there is this top 1 team, really impressive distance to all the others, and the second and the third one quite similar to each other. What we also show based on the results is that we don't actually see that much of difference with the cluster recall performance across the different approaches. But what we see is that there is quite a difference when we talk about improving the relevance. So this is probably a direction for the future works. Yeah, just to show you a final example, this is the original top 20 results from Flickr. As we saw at the beginning, we don't actually have that much of relevant images in the top 20, and the 4 remaining images actually represent only 2 different views relevant to the query, which results in quite low performance in terms of precision and cluster recall. If we have a look at the top performing approach for this particular query, which is not the average top performing approach, we see that there is actually only 1 image on bottom left which is not relevant to the query, and the remaining images also offer much broader diversity in comparison to the original Flickr result. We can see that if we a little bit rearrange the images, we have a cluster representing facing a hanging bridge or bottom-up view, window view, and so on, which images, what we are actually looking for. What we learned this year is that the dataset is actually getting very complex and challenging in comparison to the previous years. And also the results indicate that actually different queries favor different approaches, so we probably have to move towards more adaptive approaches instead of a fixed one. There is some potential subjectivity in the annotation process. If you have a set of images, you can do different kind of grouping, so which one is the correct one is quite a questionable question. And what we also noted is that for such general purpose queries, there is still low resources on Creative Commons and Flickr. So, yeah, thank you. And last asking, please share whatever images you do using Creative Commons, so it's supporting research and the task. Yep, thank you.